effects it has on the Earth. That's my humble opinion. So if we now go to some future dates, today is August 26th. So I'm going to zoom in here. And now you see, as of today, Comet Elenin is 1.091 AUs from the Earth. We're going to fast forward now because I want to show you a date that's coming up. August 31st, Elenin will be 0.978 AU from the Earth. And this is the date that allegedly Elenin is supposed to be visible to the naked eye in the sky. So in a few days, start going outside and looking for Elenin. You should be able to see it soon. If Elenin is causing these earthquakes, it can't be this wimpy comet like NASA says. It's going to not only have to be larger in size than what they're speaking of, but it's also going to have to be able to carry that energy like what we said. So some have said that Elenin is larger than Jupiter. If this is true, then it should be visible very soon. We should see a massive object in the sky. But we'll see. The next date I want you to pay attention to is September 5th and 6th. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see everything. On this date, you see that Elenin, Mercury, and Mars are in alignment. And Elenin's pretty close to the Earth at this point. It's 0.855 AU away. So obviously it's closer to the Sun, closer to Earth than we are to the Sun. And then also, if you look the other way, Earth, the Sun, and Venus are aligned. So that's around September 5th and 6th. It's a watch date. There could be some earthquakes around that time period. I would keep your eye on it. The next date to watch is September 11th. That's because there's a couple things that happen here. If you're looking at this diagram, and I'll zoom in again, you're going to see that part of this line is dark blue, and then the other part is light blue. And what that line means is that, and I can actually change the angle here so you can see, what happens is there is a plane. If you cut the Earth in half, there's a plane, and the dark blue is below that plane, and the light blue is above that cut plane of the Earth. And so Elenin's approach is below the Earth, if you could think of altitude. And after September 11th, it's going to be above that plane. But September 11th is the day that it reaches what's called perigee, and that's where it's on an equal plane with the Earth. So that's very interesting. The other thing that's interesting is it's also the perihelion day. That means that it's its closest point. Elenin will be at its closest point with the Sun. And this is believed, if it is comprised of this hydrogen cyanide, this could cause a reaction in Elenin to make it very bright, kind of like a second sun. So pay attention for that day, September 11th, as that is a possibility. All right. Let's keep going. And here's what's most exciting to me. When you get to September 26th, here you have Comet Elenin and the Earth in a very close pattern. The distance is 0.395 AU. And you'll see another alignment. You'll see the Earth, Comet Elenin, and the Sun now in a straight line. And Elenin now is between the Earth and the Sun. If this is the size of Jupiter, you can expect it to block out the Sun. I've heard anything from about 70 to 72 hours. So about 3 days, you'll see the Earth, the Sun just blocked out from the Earth, causing an eclipse. And if we go look at a calendar, this is where. Let's look at where that puts us. So September 26th, 27th, 28th, and now we'll get to September 29th. This is very interesting timing to me as a Christian because I pay attention to the feasts of the Lord spoken of in Leviticus 23. These are 7 days out of each calendar year where God said, hey, celebrate these 7 feasts. Well, that feast in Hebrew is moed. That word is moed, and it actually means an appointment. So God essentially said, these are my 7 appointments that happen every year. And if you look at the appointment calendar, if you look at chadbad.org, it's a Jewish calendar, you can see September 11th here. If you go down to the 29th, this is the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And that is one of the 7 appointments given by God in Leviticus 23. So this just happens to be around that time period where the sun's going to be darkened by Comet Elenin, and it leads us right into Rosh Hashanah. And there are some amazing things in the constellations that day. So I would definitely watch that time period. If you go past this date, then we're going to come into October 17th. And this is where Comet Elenin comes in closest proximity to the Earth ever. And it's going to be at 0.234 AU. And if we zoom out a little bit, you're going to see Comet Elenin is now headed out. It's going to be picking up speed on this whole curve, and it's going to be heading back out. So this is definitely a day to watch because it's going to be very close. Going past that date now is going to be the next time to watch, which is November 2nd through about the 7th. So for about a week, the Earth is going to pass through Comet Elenin's tail. And so I would definitely keep your eye on this time period, November 2nd through about the 7th. We're going to pass through its tail, and as Comet Elenin had come through the asteroid belt, most researchers believe that it picked up at a tremendous amount of asteroids. So as we pass through its tail, it's definitely very reasonable to consider that we may be entering into an asteroid, a tail full of asteroids, and could definitely bombard the Earth. So very interesting. That's around November 2nd through about the 7th. So definitely things to consider. The last and final alignment of this whole Comet Elenin thing, strangely enough, ends up being December 21st, 2012. So that whole time period I just showed you, also keep in mind that Earth now has passed in between the Sun and Elenin. So definitely a high frequency, there's a high probability of earthquakes coming in that time as well. And the distance is only going to be 0.373 AU. So here's basically what the schedule is for Comet Elenin, and I would definitely keep your eye on it and research more because there's a lot of very good information out there about this. So if you compare that to the Japan earthquake, it's 10 times closer at that point than what happened in Japan. So I've even heard magnitudes of upwards of 12 to 15 on the Richter scale for that time period. So if you start to think about what the Bible says about what's coming, it's very interesting. (2012). It's going to go way out. Yeah. That's the final alignment. Yep. There's more. There's a few more in between there, but that's when it's totally out. There's no more alignments. Okay, so. And I'm going to make all those individual videos available on our website too. So this whole teaching will be available, and all those individual videos will be on our website. So you can refresh. Okay, now here's something that's very interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the Swiss franc has had I can't remember how many. I think it's like 9 rounds of different currencies that they've laid out. And I think on round 6, they actually brought this currency out, and it's just unbelievable. So we're going to take a look at this. Okay, a pioneer Swiss mathematician. So this guy up here on the top left. A pioneer Swiss mathematician and physicist Leonhard Euler from 1770 carefully drew out the situation of the planets of Comet Elenin on September 26, 2011 on the back of the 10 Swiss franc note, Switzerland's national currency. So the alignment that takes place on September 26th, where I talked about where the sun's going to be blacked out, that's actually depicted on their currency from a mathematician that lived in 1770. So, well, that's what we're kind of getting into. How much have we actually been? How much of a filter has been from the government to society? How long has the government known about this thing, and yet they're just kind of letting pieces out as they want? because we're getting to a point now where they really can't hold things back anymore. Things are happening, and so this guy depicted this on their currency. This currency was let me read on. He probably did not draw the image, but he discovered an asteroid later named Euler, which is supposed to be drawn on the Swiss banknote. Yet the path of Euler's asteroid doesn't seem to correspond with what is drawn on the 10 Swiss franc note. So he discovered a comet named Euler after his last name, and so what should have been depicted on the note is not the Euler comet. It's actually what we're seeing on this September 26th. This particular Swiss note is from the 6th series of Swiss banknotes, issued November 1979 and withdrawn in May of 2000. And if you compare the two names, you'll see the similarities in this guy's name versus this alleged astronomer from Russia who says, "Hey, I saw Elenin last year." Really, it just sounds so very suspicious. And I'll be honest, I'm going to give my personal flavor. I'm not buying it. It just is too coincidental. And then if you look on their banknotes also, and I haven't taught this as a Bible study here yet, but it's on our website. We have a video called "The Days of Noah and the Return of the Nephilim." But if you look at Genesis chapter 6, it depicts a relationship between fallen angels and human women, where they actually procreated a half-breed of half angelic, half human, and that's exactly what took place in Genesis chapter 6. And that's depicted on their currency. I don't claim to understand everything that's depicted on this. What I really focused in on was, and let me go ahead. This is Leonhard Euler, so you can look up a little bit about him if you want to on Wikipedia. And it shows that, yeah, he was a mathematician. It's exactly what the claims are, that he lived in that time period of the 1700s, and he was very good at math. So, okay, so here's a better picture of the alignment. Here's from that software, but it's just inverted, so you can see it better. So it's that same deal we were just working, but now it's inverted so you can see better. And here's exactly the alignments, and everything lines up exactly where it needs to be. In a weird way, so it's just very strange. So you can look more into that and go, it creates a bigger timeline than what I'm hearing about December 10th of last year. Go ahead. There is we're looking at the time when it gets closest to the Earth. And that actually the closest point that Elenin gets to the Earth is October 17th. That's the closest day. But the alignments there's big days for multiple reasons. The November 2nd through the 7th is a huge time period because it picked up a bunch of debris through the asteroid belt. And we're going to pass right through that. So that's it's going to look like the stars are falling out of the heavens. Okay? Exactly. See, in September 26th, that 3-day alignment where it's us, the Earth, then you have Elenin in between us and the Sun. That's going to be very catastrophic.
And it appears that when the pancake, the Earth is in the middle, and then the Sun, Elenin here, and then the other big quake, the chilly quake, the Earth is in the middle again, and the Sun and Elenin on each side. So as we get to that October time when the Earth is in the middle again for that week, as it's leaving, we're in the middle in the comet and Sun for a week.
Yeah, and well, going back to September 26th, this is when it's extremely close, and this is the first time that the Comet Elenin passes between us and the Sun. So that's very significant. September 26th. Well, like I said, we have two different informations on that. So some people are saying if you'll get the official story from NASA, it's only 3 to 4 kilometers wide with a coma of 200,000 kilometers wide. Whereas there's others are saying there's no way, the way this thing is acting, there's no way it's a comet and it's a brown